Um, and then we'll go ahead and get started. So my name is Michael Esvon. I'm the Assistant Director of the Graduate Program of Architecture here. I also teach in the program as a clinical assistant professor. I've been here full time since 2020 and taught here for a number of years before that as well, on and off. So I know the place pretty well. I'm sort of new to the administration in the last couple of years and learning how this place really operates. So I'm actually excited that I've been able to play a whole range of different roles and know this place both from the teaching side, but also the administration side. And I'm excited to share our graduate program offering with you. I'm going to go ahead and share screen. Give me 1 second to find my slideshow. Hang on. And then we'll go through slides. I'm going to try to rip through these slides. Well, where did that thing go? So that there's a little bit of time afterwards for your questions as well, as I'm sure there's going to be some. Can you all see that? I'm going to go to full screen. Go, and hopefully you all can still see that. Can somebody just give me a verbal that you're able to see that screen?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can see
it.
Perfect. Thanks. Good. So here we are, the University of Maryland School of Architecture, Planning, Preservation, Architecture program. We've been around since the 1970s, evolving the whole time. And we think we've got this program to a pretty great place where it is now. We're in the November 13th virtual session. There's going to be one more virtual session in case you need more questions answered. Again, you guys are targeting a January 12th application date. At the end of the session, I'm also going to mention that there's a second application date specifically for international students who are wanting to jump onto a fast track for application. And that's applications are actually due in a couple of days on November 15th. And I'll talk a little bit more about that at the end of this session, about what that means specifically for international students who may have encountered trouble getting their visas on time. We're trying to help you guys out through that process by making some adjustments to our timeline. But for everyone else, all domestic applicants, January 12th is the day that we're targeting. And there's going to be one more virtual session if you're interested. I'm going to be covering faculty and curriculum, students and organizations, events. Studios and thesis is something I spent a little bit of time on because I want to describe that a little more fully for you all. Talk about our great study abroad opportunities, and then also things like financial aid and graduate assistant positions and application dates as well. So we'll get into some of the nitty-gritty kind of at the end of the program. But let's start with faculty and curriculum because our faculty and our administration are really kind of at the the engine that makes this place run. We are under the leadership of Mohammed Garapur, who started serving as director just 2 years ago. I've been his assistant director now for a couple of years. Ken Filler is also one of our assistant directors who also teaches in the program. He had more of the undergraduate side of things. And we're also joined by Paula Riff, who's been an amazing program assistant, helping us with all kinds of logistical issues in running the program. So we make up the kind of administration team of the architecture program. And we're joined by just a ton of faculty. And you can see by these images of our faculty members, we run the whole gamut in terms of gender and ethnicity, age. We're also, some of us are career sort of researchers, some of us are practitioners and actually practice alongside teaching. Some are retired from practice and just teach full time. So we all have a kind of a range of backgrounds and a range of expertise as well. A lot of different interests and methods and experiences are sort of accumulated here in our faculty. And that's what benefit to you all, because as you all are kind of figuring out who you want to be as professionals, who you want to be, maybe in what kind of practice you want to engage in as you move on to becoming career architects. We're here to help guide you and tell you our stories and our experiences and how we see the field and where you might fit in the field as well. So I just want to highlight a couple of the courses that are taught in our program, just to give you a sense of where we're at and what we value. We value innovation and sustainability, and so a course like this one, the Future of Green Smart Green Building Technologies, is looking at the integration of vegetation and plant life, and real-time sensors with things like building facades. So this is a building facade that was attached to a solar decathlon house that was one of the UMD entries into that competition. But this course is really great because it's looking at this new kind of emerging set of technologies and looking at adaptive technologies, specifically around plant life. Lynn, did you have a question?
Excuse me. I'm not sure, but I think you're scrolling through pages, but we only see the first page of the
Got it.
PDF.
I'm going to exit. Thanks for saying that. I'm going to exit full screen mode. Can you all see all of our professors here?
Okay, so now this is page 6 of 54. Yes, we can see it.
Excellent. Great. Good.
Okay.
Did you all see this before or no?
No.
No. Okay. Here's who we are: Mohammed, myself, Ken, and Paula. Here's that whole range of faculty I was talking about with all the diverse backgrounds and diverse interests. And now I just want to jump into these courses. And I just told you about the future of smart green technologies, and so now we're all caught up. This is another course, a required course, Architecture 460, Site Analysis and Design, which is required for graduate students. So this is where we engage landscape design with our architecture students, and they learn a whole range of different practices. This course won a grant recently to start to incorporate sort of traditional ecological knowledge and indigenous practices together with the teaching of kind of, more Western-based practices of landscape design. So this is real fun to kind of augment the way that we teach landscape design. And I think we've come up with a really great course for you all, so that you can learn that essential part of practice. This is a topical studio, Architecture 601. These studios cover a whole range of topics. In fact, I'm going to show you some more down the line. But this is one that was based on Assateague Island, which is a kind of a super fragile coastal environment. This was a real world project. It was funded by PALS, and we were partnered with the Maryland Department of Natural Resources to develop a new ranger station and a new resiliency plan for the campgrounds at this really fragile barrier island. So it was a really cool studio to run. Students did site visits and lots of site investigation, and it was a really fruitful endeavor with a real world client. And then a last kind of just glimpse into some of the courses that we teach. This is the Architecture 408 Aerotropolis. It's also a seminar that's taught about the question of vertical communities and the question of the integration of technology, not so much in the creation of adaptive facades or building systems, but more looking at a range of different, how VR and augmented reality can start to adapt not only how we see architecture, but how we design architecture and how we come together as community, technology augmented communities. So that's just kind of a glimpse of the types of courses that you'll engage here. I want to put this chart in front of you. This is and start talking about the different paths that students take through our program. Path A is a professional degree. You can see it's a 60 credit degree, and it's for students who are coming into our program who have a Bachelor of Science or what's called a pre-professional degree. So that makes it a 2-year program. And we have a whole range of different studios and required courses and elective courses as well. The courses in orange here are elective courses. If you're interested in seeing more, you can go onto the website and look at our degree programs, and there you'll see a full list and schedule of all the courses that you'll need to take in this 2-year program. And then we have Path B, the Path B program. This is for students who didn't study architecture as undergrads, but are now coming into grad school to study architecture. It's a 3.5-year program, 105 credits. As you can see, the courses in red are required courses. And so there's a whole range of required studio courses up near the top, and then a number of different required courses that have to do with technologies and structures and history, that bring folks who don't have a background in architecture sort of up to speed. And then in year 3, these students meet up and are paired with Path A students, because at that point they've had the required degree of architecture courses that make them suitable for kind of meeting up and joining a studio together with Path A students. You can also see in that year a whole range of different electives and options start opening up as well. And then there are Path B plus students. These are students who have some background in architecture, but not enough to qualify for Path A. And so Path B plus students have a 2.5-year program, and we work with every Path B plus student to devise a really specific plan of study. You start in essentially on Architecture 406, which is the design studio. But there are some courses that you will already have sort of taken in your undergraduate experience. And so we work with each of you to develop an individual plan that's kind of tailored to your past experiences. So we figure out whether or not it's always going to be a 2.5-year program. In some cases, it might be a 3, depending on the limits of your experience. But just know that we have, we're equipped to kind of set out the path of travel for you all. Then we have our dual degree programs. There are some of you who are going to come in who want to take advantage of what Lindsay May was talking about just a minute ago. The idea that if you stay here for longer, you can achieve not only a Master's of Architecture degree, but you can also come out with a second degree as well. So we pair up with the Master of Architecture and the Real Estate program, Master of Architecture and Historic Preservation, and then Master of Architecture and Community Planning. You can see, depending whether you're a Path A or a Path B student, it lengthens the time of that you'll be here in the degree program. For instance, if you're doing a real estate dual degree, if you're a Path A, you'll be here for 2.5 years instead of 2. And if you're a Path B, you'll be here for 4 years instead of 3.5. And we do this by saying that those electives that I was talking about, those electives you'll plug in required real estate program courses in there, and that allows us to shrink the amount of time that it would take to take on the real estate program degree if you were just taking it on its own, right? So this kind of compressed mode of study, it's intense, but you come out with a pair of degrees, and it makes you, I think, really attractive in the marketplace with a range of different skills. So that's something to consider as well. So we have a whole range of student organizations and ways of participating. At the School of Architecture, we're 561 architecture students this year. And if we break that down further, we can see there are 86 graduate architecture students in the building at this time. And we have a ton of undergraduate students who are either on the BA track or the BS track, right? But 86 for graduate students is a really healthy number that we're really kind of proud of. It gives us, the ability to have the kind of class sizes that we're hoping for, and offer the range of opportunities that we hope for as well. Our students are really engaged and self-organizing. We have a whole number of different possibilities in terms of organizations, including the Architecture Student Assembly, but then Women in Architecture and the LGBTQIA plus Design Collective, NOMAS, the American Institute of Architecture Students. All of these are opportunities both for students to be social, to learn leadership skills, to have opportunities to kind of travel and go to conventions and conferences and things like this. And some of these groups also, like the Women in Architecture, have been doing a great job of raising up a kind of a lecture series that runs in parallel to our lecture series. So they're inviting important women in the field to come and talk about their experiences. So that's an example of the kind of engagement that our students are involved with here through student organizations. We're also super active relative to events and activities and competitions. All of you coming in will start out on the very first day at a welcome charrette, several hours of kind of designing with other new students in historic preservation and planning. It's a great day that's organized by Lindsay May. And so we come in and we kind of learn about each other and sort of meet each other through design, which is something that is a super fun way to break the ice. We have other activities like the placemaking hackathon, which takes place over 24 hours. So this is an opportunity to get involved with students across campus. We have a program lecture series every semester. We bring in a whole range of different voices. We bring in practitioners, we bring in activists. Last semester, we were bringing in a whole range of different international voices. We had a real emphasis on bringing folks from designers from Bangladesh and from other places around the world. And so we're really proud of the lecture series that we put on, and we think it's a really great resource for students. So just know that that's something that we take seriously and will be a real part of your education as well. Alongside that, in parallel to that, we have the Keibel Gallery, which is the place that puts on shows every semester based on architecture research, based on practitioners. There's a whole number of different topics and ideas that get fleshed out in the Keibel Gallery. And these are images from the last 20 years of different shows that have been put on there. So it's a really great resource for the school. But again, another kind of learning opportunity for students as well. We also have our mentorship program, which is something that you can get involved with in a couple of different ways. One is you can get paired, if you choose to join, you get paired with a mentor, a practitioner that you check in with every week or couple of weeks and have an ongoing conversation about architecture, about the practice, what it's like out in the real world, or discussing even your studio work. So it can be a wide-ranging discussion that you have with this mentor that you're partnered with. That's one track of the mentorship program. Another track of the mentorship program is where you, as a graduate student, serve as a mentor for an undergraduate student. And so, you can talk about your kind of experience in architecture school. You can talk about your work experience outside of architecture if you're a Path B student. But we found these to be really great learning opportunities for undergrads and really great kind of leadership opportunities for graduate students as well. So we're really proud of this program. It's in its early days, but the turnout and the kind of involvement with students has really been tremendous. And so it's been expanding, and it's a really great opportunity as well. Lindsay talked about some of the different competitions you can get involved with. HUD is a big one. These are multidisciplinary student teams that are advised by a faculty member. And so again, another opportunity for you all to get involved and to practice design and show leadership skills. We tend to do pretty well in a lot of these competitions. You can see our first place win here in this national competition in 2022. At the Urban Land Institute, the ULI Hines competition is one that we enter every year as well. Again, we run multidisciplinary teams. So that includes graduate architecture students and landscape architecture students and folks from real estate planning. But again, we tend to do well. We have first and second place wins in the last several years in this competition as well. The ACSA Timber in the City competition is something that we run within a studio, within a topical studio. And so that's another national based competition. Again, you can see our 2019 first place win here, made by a team of graduate architecture students. And then NOMAS traveled to Portland for the first time this year to enter their national student competition. And that's a tradition that we are hoping to kind of start and to move forward with every year. And so if you're a participant in NOMAS, you can be part of that team and part of that effort. So I want to talk about design studios and thesis a bit now, because really, as many of you know, studios are really at the kind of core of our kind of educational experience here, right? Studios are six credit courses, and as a Path A student or a Path B student, you will be taking the studios I'm about to describe. It just is a sort of a matter of when. If you're a Path B student, you're going to go through a number of different studios that are going to engage with essential kind of skill building, increasing complexity as you deal with larger and larger building types, as you learn different modes of drawing and exploration of design. And then ultimately you end up in Architecture 600. Whereas Path A students who have a background in architecture, they're going to start right in on Architecture 600. So Architecture 600 is sort of the meeting ground between Path A and Path B that I was describing a little bit earlier. It's a comprehensive sort of integrated design studio. It's a really amazing professional experience, and I'll talk more about it in a minute. But another topical studio is Architecture 601. Topical studios are ones that kind of they differ in terms of their topic, depending on which professor is running them. And oftentimes they take on sort of the research question that the professor is engaged with. I'll give more examples of that. And then we have urban design studios. And whether you're a Path B student, you'd be taking 407, or a Path A student, you take Architecture 700. These are both studios that are really based on the question of urban design. So looking beyond the scale of the singular building and looking at districts and areas of cities or areas of a campus, and thinking about design more broadly and at a larger scale. So in terms of the Comprehensive Design Studio, this is an award-winning studio that we've run for many, many years. It's quite different than any studio I'm sure you've been involved with, in part because we partner with so many different consultants. Here, structural engineers and building envelope engineers and thermal energy engineers come in to the studio and serve as design critics on an ongoing basis. They're almost working like consultants on a project that students are working on. And so the projects that come out of the Architecture 600 studio are really quite robust and well thought through. They've been run through a whole range of energy modeling softwares, and design has been evolving alongside the question of really rigorous structural sizing of elements, really rigorous environmental controls questions and lighting questions, a lot of stuff that you simply don't have time to engage with in other design studios. Here, those questions come in front and center, and it really starts to make the studio project feel a little bit more like a professional project in terms of how robust it is. So these are some examples of some of the work, some of the kind of modeling that's done to look at energy efficiency and test options and create feedback loops based on building performance. One thing I should mention is that every year we bring in what's called a key distinguished professor. And so these are practitioners, often well-known in national level, sometimes international level practitioners who come in and sit on multiple reviews with Architecture 600. Again, they serve as a sort of high-level design consultant. So along with your studio professor, you have access to these really amazing designers and their experience and expertise. And so they're part of that kind of comprehensive design studio experience as well. Topical studios like Timber in the City, I just mentioned. So this is looking at the question of mass timber housing. So this is a 601 studio. So following 600, you go into 601. And you might be looking, if you're in this studio, you'd be looking at the question of mid-level or mid-rise housing using mass timber and other new technologies like that. Another topical studio was called Bridging the Gap, and it was looking at a kind of parallel studio that was run with a school in Baghdad. And so there was our architecture students were engaging with teams of architecture students in Baghdad. They were designing for places in Washington, D.C. We were designing for places in Baghdad, and sort of working together as a larger kind of global team. to look at this kind of to experience this kind of global practice. And it's really amazing. It's run more than once. And then just an example of the kind of urban design studios. This is looking at the campus, not a city, but frankly, looking at how the campus engages with urban design. So again, this is kind of zooming out from the individual building scale and looking at larger parts of campus and larger parts of cities, and putting forth master plan designs based on that. So this is looking at a kind of agroecology district within UMD's campus, so looking at kind of the north side of campus, proposing new buildings, replacing vast surface parking lots with new developments, and then thinking about like, well, what value systems could drive that new development. And here the question was looking at food production as a driver for urbanism. And so students were looking at a range of agrarian urbanism examples from around the world, and then applying some of those tenets and some of those strategies here to campus design. And then the last kind of design-based course that I want to talk about is thesis, which is a really kind of major part of the experience here as a graduate student. Again, whether you're a path A or a path B, your sort of experience here is going to culminate in thesis work. And thesis takes course or takes place over 2 different courses. One is thesis per seminar, which is sort of a 3-credit research-based seminar where you're really coming up with the question of what your thesis project is. And then there's thesis design, which is a 6-credit course, which is run the following semester, where you take that research and that framing of an architectural question, and you play out the design. And you know, as you may know, design is a form of research, and so the research that was a little bit more sort of written-based research happening in pro-seminar now becomes fully design-based research, and it culminates in a design proposition, and it's an amazing kind of growing and educational experience for all of our students. I want to give you an example of the types of projects that are engaged in thesis, especially to just talk about the range of scale. Here's a project from 2022 that was looking at the scale of the small building and looking at this question of biogenic materials, the construction using living materials as opposed to high embodied carbon materials like metal. And so this is this is a thesis project that is asking really big questions, frankly, global questions, by looking at a really small scale building. This is a project based in Guatemala. It was a proposition for a school, and looking at kind of this design of a sustainable school in an emerging economy. And so it's looking at kind of vernacular construction techniques and trying really to fit this place into local traditions and local vernaculars. Here's a project looking at the so-called missing middle housing typology in Maryland. So again, looking at kind of like affordable housing communities and the question of kind of equity and social justice through the lens of housing. And then finally, here's a larger kind of almost urban scale question of resiliency in Atlantic City, which is a city on a barrier island that commonly floods. And so this is looking at a range of different kind of flooding-based strategies for the next 10, 20, 30 years in Atlantic City, but also proposing new buildings and new water management landscapes for that city. So it both landed on the ground as a building proposition, but it was also kind of a broader scale urban proposition as well. So I hope that gives you kind of a flavor for the fact that in your thesis work, which is really guided by your interest and your kind of passions, you're going to get paired with a faculty advisor and someone who sort of finds your topic interesting and possibly even shares your interests. And you move forward with that chair and that committee, but you're the driver of the project. And in that way, it becomes a really great kind of growth opportunity for students who may not have ever been put in that position. At least you're not really put in that position as much in a studio where you have to both drive the project, but you actually have to write what the project even is, right? So it's a really great experience for you all. Study abroad is something that our students really tend to take advantage of. We have opportunities both for short-term and longer-term study. So there's programs in Cuba and Japan, programs in Italy, as well as Scandinavia. So some of these happen in the winter term, and they're quite short. They're maybe 3 weeks, 2.5 weeks even, like Cuba. Then there's some programs that are longer that run in the summer that are 4, sometimes even 5 weeks, such as our Japan program or our Scandinavia program, or our Rome and Florence and Vicenza program as well. So the Japan program is new. It invites both planning students and architecture students, so it's kind of like a multidisciplinary trip. And it was a real success last year. We're hoping to run it again. Maryland and Florence happens in the spring semester, and it's something that a lot of students have been interested in. Our study abroad program in more broadly across Italy happens in summers as well. And that's been a really great program that's been around literally for decades. And then we have a program taking students out to Scandinavia, looking in Sweden, Denmark, and Finland, and looking more at kind of modernist architecture there. And the amazing tradition of modern design that you'll find there. And that's led by Peter Noonan, who's done this trip many, many times with different students, and he knows those places like the backs of his hands. So, so that gives you kind of a taste of what we offer in the program. And now I want to just talk about a few sort of nitty-gritty details about application and about financial aid and things like that. We try our best to support our students who come here to study in the graduate program. We do that in a couple of ways, through scholarships, which is literally money that we give you to help fund your work. And then also through GA and TA positions, so graduate assistant and teaching assistant positions. In the last semester, we had 44 students who were eligible for TAGA positions. These are very competitive, but they come with a stipend, they come with in-state tuition, and they come with other benefits, including healthcare as well. So again, super competitive, and we don't have enough positions for every graduate student. But through these different types of opportunities like scholarships and GA positions, we try to really help as many students as we can. Speaking of scholarships, these are 3 of the different types that we have. We have what are called internship scholarships. So there are local firms who have long-standing relationships with the University of Maryland School of Architecture, and they fund these programs. They basically offer internships and summer employment to students, as well as a stipend. And so we have about 6 of those to offer, and they're very competitive again. But graduate students every November apply, and then they get an interview with the firm, and ultimately they get placed with the firm if they're so lucky. So that's one of our kind of scholarship opportunities. If you're planning on traveling abroad, there are scholarship opportunities as well. If you're involved in one of our study abroad programs, again, we try to give something to everyone who's trying to get to study abroad. And so depending on how many people are going, it kind of raises or lowers the amount of money that we're able to offer to students. But again, it's based on the program. But if you are interested in going abroad to study, just realize that we're here to help with that as well. And then there are just merit scholarships. As an applicant to the graduate program, you're going to be automatically in the running for merit scholarships. And then there are going to be opportunities every year to apply for merit scholarships as well. So if you don't get a scholarship as part of your recruitment, as part of your application process coming in, realize that once you're here, there are going to be opportunities again for other types of scholarships on a kind of yearly basis. Circling back to the TAGA stuff again, like we have graduate assistants, we have teaching assistants. We have many more teaching assistants than graduate assistants. Teaching assistants essentially work within a specific course. They work closely with the professor there, helping to administer the course. And we have 35 to 40 students. Only graduate students are eligible. And then for graduate assistants, these are students who are helping with certain parts of the program, like actually, frankly, part of the administration program or looking at the fabrication, the Fab Lab, helping out there, or helping out in the library or the Kybel Gallery. And so we have somewhere between 7 to 10 graduate assistant positions that are available for students as well. So as part of the application process, if you're admitted into the program, we will let you know. And then we will also invite you to apply for TA and GA positions. And then before you have to make your decision about whether or not you're going to come to the University of Maryland, you're going to know that you've been admitted. You're going to know whether or not you're getting a scholarship. You're going to know whether or not you're getting a TA or GA position. If you're a Path B+, you're going to know exactly what courses you're going to be taking. And Path A's and B's are also going to know exactly what courses and exactly how long it's going to take for you to achieve your degree. And then, and then you'll say yes or no, whether you decide to take the offer. But I just wanted you to know that you will have all the information, the financial information in hand when it's time for you to make the decision. So let's talk about that whole timeline, the application timeline. If we look on the left, most of you will be applying by January 12th, whether you're an international student or a domestic student. January 12th is the final deadline for applications. I'll talk about fast track for international in a second, but for international and for domestic, January 12th is the deadline. You'll receive notification from us by mid-March whether or not you've been accepted into the program. And then you're going to also receive at that point scholarship information. You're going to hear about GA/TA positions by early April, and then by mid-April, you're going to have to make your choice about whether you're going to come, right? So that's putting a little bit more of a timeline behind what I was just describing earlier, that you're going to have all the information you need in hand by the time you need to decide by mid-April. Now, again, for our international students, we're trying to lend a helping hand here, knowing that visas, depending on what country you're coming from, they can be a real issue in terms of trying to get them in a timely manner. So if you're interested in sort of fast tracking your application process, if you apply by November 15th, which is in 2 days, then you're going to receive your admission of notification by December 15th, at which point you can start your visa application if you so desire. So you get a several-month jump on that whole process, and that can make the difference of whether or not you're able to come or not. You won't be able to receive your financial aid, your scholarship, or your TA/GA information until the same time as a regular applicant. So that's late March and early April. So you still do have to sort of wait to hear about whether or not you're going to get that funding. But the application process for visas can start earlier than that. And then you would have to decide at the same time, mid-April, about whether or not you're choosing to come or not. So I'm happy to spend some more time discussing all of that if you guys are interested. But that wraps up my presentation and leaves us with a good amount of time for me to answer your questions. So I'm going to take a drink of water, and then again, happy to answer any questions you all have. What's coming up for you guys?
Professor, this is kind of more of like a personal question, but it's something I'm kind of struggling with. Straight out of undergrad, did you go into grad school or did you take some time off?
I did not go straight in. I had the plan to work for about 3 years and then come back to graduate school. I ended up working for about 7 years and then going back to graduate school. And I did that in part because I was having such a good experience as a professional, learning so much that I didn't want to break my professional momentum. I found that having any kind of professional experience in between undergrad and grad can be a really great thing, because you get a real taste for what you kind of want to achieve as a professional, as an architect, and it can help you become a more focused graduate student, because you've already started to generate these kind of professional interests and these kind of avenues of interest. So I think it's actually a really great thing to take a breather in between undergrad and grad, and just get a sense of the field, what it feels like to work. So yeah, so that was my experience. I've heard a similar thing from others. But frankly, I've also had some great graduate students who come in right from undergrad, and they do have a kind of maturity level, and they're ready to engage in graduate work. So you asked for a personal answer, and that was my personal experience, and I wouldn't trade that personal experience. It really worked for me, but it's not it's not one size fits all, that's for sure.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. What other questions do you guys have? I can answer super specific questions or broad questions.
So kind of related to that last question, are there a lot of students who work while doing this part-time, or are they mostly full-time students?
There are some students that work. I will say that I think it is very difficult to do it, to pull off working and going to school. It's you'd really need to have a working relationship with a firm that really understands the pressure of graduate school and how difficult it can be, and how there are times where you really do have to prioritize your schoolwork over professional work. So I think if you're involved with a firm that has a real good understanding of that, then it can be a good fit. For any student who receives a TAGA position with us, which is a 10-hour-a-week commitment, we ask that you do not work on top of that, because we simply do not think it's possible to do 10 hours a week of work with us, some hours of work at a firm, and then still be successful in your graduate studies. Our goal is to really help you guys be the best graduate students that you can be. And so we try to create limits around how much work you can actually do, especially if we're giving you this offer of a TAGA position. So we can't say like, no, it's not possible for you to work, or we're not allowing it, but we do highly advise that unless you're in a really sort of understanding relationship with a firm who can really give you a lot of leeway and flexibility, that you might find it, frankly, really overwhelming to be working and trying to pull off graduate school at the same time. Now, I understand for some people, it's just not even a choice. If they want to do graduate school, it has to be, they need the income. And, we'll do the best we can to help support you in that. I never did that. I didn't work during my graduate school experience, and hats off to people who are able to do that and do it successfully. And some people really are. And I've also seen some students just think they can do it all, and they end up not doing everything well, right? Everything sort of suffers: their academic life, their professional life, their personal life, because of all the stress. So, again, there isn't a one size fits all question. But to answer your question, some students do, and we advise students to try to set themselves up to be the best graduate students they can be.
Okay, it's a great answer. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Sure. What else is coming up for you guys?
Hi, I have a
That's
question.
Yeah, Maya.
Oh, sorry. I have a question in regards to the dual degree programs. As from what I'm understanding, I'd be eligible for the B+ track and just the Master of Architecture program. But would that not be applicable in a dual degree program? Like, is it only considered path A or B? In that retrospect.
Oh, yeah, good question. And I think you're referring to how I only listed path A and path B on that slide. If you're a path B+ student, we would work with you to figure out what that dual degree would look like. So to answer your question, yes, it is possible, but for our Path B Plus students are so sort of individualized because, you know, they have different kind of experiences in undergraduate, in their undergraduate education. So all of their course paths are like a little bit different from from another Path B Plus student. So I couldn't say like, yeah, if you're a B plus, you know, your dual degree is going to take 3.5 years. What we would do is we would hear from you that you're interested in that. And then as a B plus student, I would sit down with Brendan DeCoster, who's our graduate advisor, and we would come up with a game plan. Like this would be, you know, the course plan for Maya to graduate with in a B plus program for architecture and get the dual degree in whatever other program she wants, how long it'll take, what courses she needs to take and when, right? And then we'd hand that to you and say, here's the plan. You know, do you accept or do you not accept, right? So again, like we would figure that all out. It is an option, but it would all get sorted out after you apply. And after we accept you, then we start to work on like, well, what does it really look like for you?
Awesome. That was helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Somebody else had a question.
Yes, it was me.
Hi.
Hello, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good too, thanks. So I've got a question with regards to the mentorship programs.
Yeah.
Is it possible if someone can do both, like mentoring an undergraduate while also be mentored by
Yes.
professional?
Yes, for sure. And we encourage that too. This mentorship program, we started it last year, and it's just like the interest level and the kind of success stories that we've heard have been really, really overwhelming. And we've heard there are a lot of people who do exactly what you're saying. They have this, you know, they set up this kind of relationship, or we help set up the relationship between you and a partner, a practitioner out in the world. So you can have discussions about practice, about internships, even about studio work, right? It could be an extra opportunity for studio review. But then also at the same time, going the other way and you become a mentor for a younger student. Yes, absolutely. Both of those are options simultaneously.
Oh, great, thanks.
Yeah, of course. What are the questions you guys have?
I also have a question about the dual degrees.
Yeah.
I guess I was just wondering how accurate those timelines were. Like I know for the just Masters of Architecture, they have a pretty set coursework and we know kind of what it looks like, but how, I guess, accurate would you say it is? Because you're taking it from like 4 years to 3 years. Is it like hard to get just perfectly the right classes to overlap?
Is it hard to do it? No, I don't think it's hard to do it, because, you know, we work in partnership with the other programs. So we're aware of, let's say, your specific need to stay on a dual degree track. So we are working with you to make sure you're getting into the courses that you need to take to stay on the schedule that we've set out. So you're not sort of just left adrift to figure out, well, how am I supposed to do this? And what courses do I need to take? Like we're there helping you out every step of the way, showing you like, what's the game plan? What courses do you need to be in? What do you need to satisfy? You know, occasionally there's going to be a hiccup where, you know, maybe a professor is ill or something and is not there that semester and the course doesn't run, which means that, you know, it's going to create a little bit of a hiccup in your schedule. But I want you to know that like we are trying to partner with you to have your experience be successful. And part of that is setting out a really clear game plan. So, you know, again, like you'll apply for a dual degree program if you so choose. And then we're going to set out the game plan and you're going to see every course that you need to take in year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4. And what it's all going to look like. So there's really no mystery about it. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, pretty much. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. Good. What other questions do we have?
Pretty individualized question, but would a student with a dual undergraduate degree maybe be able to complete a dual master's degree faster than someone with just a undergraduate in architecture? Would that be something that you can kind of work with advisors and create a personalized plan?
Yeah, yeah, that is a good example of where advisors would need to step in. What we would do as part of the process of seeing what courses you place out of, and in fact, every B+ student would be doing this. We're going to be asking you for syllabuses or syllabi from the various undergraduate courses that you've taken that you think satisfy that would allow you to waive out of courses in architecture or courses in real estate, let's say, right? And then we would take a look at those syllabi and say, yeah, you know what, this course is equivalent to our structural course that we offer. So the student doesn't have to take that. They've already satisfied that. Great. So take that off the list. And then similarly with another program, like, oh, this real estate course that the student took, it's so similar to this other course that we offer that's part of our curriculum, we can take that off the table because they've already achieved that, right? So that's part of that kind of tailoring process, is we're looking at your experience and we're seeing what you've waived out of. And in some cases, you know, some students are surprised that they waive out of a lot of things. And then there are other times where it seems like they might have the impression that they could waive out of a course, but there are a whole range of different criteria that we're looking at behind the scenes to really make sure that those courses that you've already taken actually are a match to what we offer. And it's not always the case. Even if the title of the course is the same, you took structures over here and we offer structures, but when you really start lining them up next to each other, there's too many things missing in that course of yours to let you waive out of it. So anyway, it's a kind of it's a process that we go through. It's a negotiation, and you know, it involves conversation with you as well about these courses. So to answer your question, in theory, I can totally see how there would be you know, courses in both undergrad architecture and undergrad some other program that would help you waive out of courses in the dual degree programs that you're interested in theory. And then in practice, we just have to see.
Okay, that's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Good. What other questions you guys have?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Do you have like time for another question maybe?
I do, yeah. We have about 4 more minutes here.
Okay, so I have just like general questions, and since I'm applying as an international student, I was like kind of wondering about the studio culture and maybe how intense the program might be for the MR program. And how do you see the program and students as a professor? Do you think that this is something that students struggle with, or no?
Tell me the last part of that question. What do you ask students struggle with?
You know, the whole program, like international students coming from different backgrounds.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think there's, you know, there's obviously like a learning curve coming from a different culture and a different country, but I think we are generally a very supportive program and a very supportive community. Again, I think there are a lot of opportunities to kind of socialize here. We do have a really large kind of international student body here. So we're not a homogenous group at all. And in fact, we're right in this moment, we're trying to put together a board of international students that can be helpful to incoming international students, just in terms of like figuring out difficult stuff, like where do I live, and you know, what kind of forms, I didn't realize you need to fill out this form or that form, or, you know, just lots of heads up kind of stuff and really helpful stuff to support our international students coming in. So there's that. But then, you know, you asked the question about the kind of general intensity level. I think it is fairly intense. I think, you know, we ask a lot of our students, and we sort of ask our students to be, you know, professional, and we ask them to be engaged, in part because we know, like, the more engagement that you have here, The more you kind of dig into your classes, dig into our organizations, dig into our lecture events and stuff, the more you're going to learn, and the more you're going to come out of this process as a more enriched student. And we really want that for you. And so you'll get a lot of kind of nudges from us to get involved or to participate or to join us. So, you know, some people might perceive that as intense, but we do it because we're interested in sort of, you know, graduating students who are going to be real contributors to the profession and to the practice. And we think that's how you create a great graduate student, by really kind of putting them in the, you know, giving a lot of different opportunities and a lot of encouragement to be involved.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Of course. Probably time for one last question if there is one.
Hello. My question is about the portfolio. There is a requirement of 15 megabyte in the requirements, but there is no mention of any page limitations. Is there any page limitation or requirements for the portfolio?
That's a great question. I'm not aware of a page limitation. I will suggest that you go to, I'm going to share screen on, hang on one second. I'm going to suggest that you go to our website. Can you all see this? The Master of Architecture admissions page. If you scroll down on this, you're going to find our admission requirements, application requirements, including fees, transcripts, letter of recommendation, portfolio, preferred page orientation. Looks like there's an orientation here, but we're not putting a page limitation. We also have examples of like the kind of text we would expect to see that describe projects within your portfolio. So if you've not seen this page, it is, I'm going to put it here in the chat so that you can go to it and check it out, because I think it would answer a lot of your questions. It's there now in the chat if you haven't seen it already.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think there is a page limitation.
And there is no, okay. Another question is about that first track application deadline. Is it a strict deadline? Because I actually want to apply, but like my thesis supervisor, she's out of the country, so I can have the LOR from her. So is it possible, like if I complete my application at the end of this week, will it be considered for advanced placement?
Well, what I would do is I would send in the application and then add in the letter. Did you say it was a letter of recommendation?
Yeah, I meant a letter of recommendation.
Yeah, so what I would do is I would send in the application on time, and then send me an email saying, hey, my letter of recommendation is coming by the end of the week, and I'll forward it to you as soon as possible. So don't wait on the whole application for a letter, because it's very typical for letters of recommendation sometimes to be late. So, but keep your application running on time would be my suggestion.
Okay, thank you. That's really helpful.
Yeah, no problem. Folks, I have to run because I'm teaching another course now. But again, we will have our final session in December. So mark your calendars for that if there's additional questions that you have. But I do want to thank you all for being here, for joining us, and I look forward to seeing your applications. And let me know if you have any other questions. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Of course. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.